The date is Sunday, May 18th, 2014, and
Lucille Rizzuto.
Nick Rizzuto.
are being interviewed by Sara N and Katrina Rizzuto. Okay, so we're going to start out with the Cold War. So truthfully, like, how big of a deal was the Cold War, and how great were the tensions between the U.S. and Soviet Russia?
It was a scary time because things were so uncertain, no matter what distance we were away from what was going on.
I was afraid of nuclear attacks.
Okay, so are there any specific events that stand out to you when you recall the Cold War?
Yes, the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs stands out because it was such a big mistake that our president made at the time. And
I remember the missile crisis when the Russians sent missiles to Cuba because Russia had put missiles in Cuba aiming at the U.S.
So
That's all right.
So did these missiles being aimed right at the U.S. Instill even a greater fear than just having such high tensions between the U.S. and Russia?
Yeah. Well, we depended on our president to straighten the whole situation out.
Yeah.
And well, he did the best he could, and
Because the missiles did end up.
and the missiles did end up getting sent back to Russia.
So our next topic is America at home in the 1950s and 1960s. So pretty much just what life was like back then.
okay, and I say life was simple and uncomplicated, and small paychecks, but you managed to pay everything, and there wasn't as much worry about finances as what they've come to be now. You know.
Well, what was consumer spending like? Like, what were people spending their money on, other than clothes and
Spent it on cars and something about TVs, actually. TVs was a big thing then.
I figured.
And what else?
Well, when was color television created yet?
Well, black and white, as far as I knew. Black and white was the time, and color TV came in much later than that.
63.
Okay, so what was something you and your friends liked to do for fun?
Go to the movies. That was a big thing.
Your favorite?
And we played ball in the park. And some of the other things we did was bowled and played golf. Had good times.
So,
Huh?
Favorite one.
What was your favorite movie that you liked to go
Oh,
see?
My favorite movie was, well, On the Waterfront was one of the favorite movies that I enjoyed. And
Okay.
Why were the movies so popular?
because they had
Big stuff.
good stars, nice stars, you know, and I don't know, what else can I tell you? My favorite.
My favorite movie was Gaslight.
And why is that?
It just had a great story, and it was kind of a mystery, or, you know.
Okay. So, what was the popular style for women during the time?
Well, they all wore similar clothing.
Okay.
There wasn't too much of a choice. you know, and dresses mainly. I don't think pants. I forget when that might have come in. But you know, there was a lot of color. It was, but mainly dresses and suits.
So what really, now that World War II was over, what role were women playing in society?
Well, now that World War II was over and the men had come home, they were taking over the jobs, and the woman's role became stay-at-home moms, getting married and having children, and a lot of baby boomers at that time.
What about the style of hair during this time for women?
There was what was called the page boy, which was your shoulder length and curled under, and then there was the flip that went the other way, and then they did teasing that made the hair more volume.
So you said that a lot of people have cars. That was a big thing that people like to spend money on. What was your favorite type of car?
Especially during that times, there was muscle cars that were very popular, and a lot of guys were buying muscle cars, which were a lot of power cars, big cars. They were just beautiful things. I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, that's what we had.
Okay, moving on to civil rights. So do you recall viewing any protests? Probably like on TV, because I don't think there were many in Belmont.
Yes, there was a lot on television at the time about Alabama and Arkansas, and it was very disturbing, because a specific event I remember was when the children were being stopped from going to school, and it was very distressing. It really was.
Because you were putting your children in school.
Right,
during this
mine
time.
were going out the door and going to school freely.
This is the Little Rock crisis in Arkansas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they protested on the buses as well. Right?
Alabama.
Yep.
Is yours.
In Alabama. And what else? Yeah.
Okay, so was racism less of a problem in a suburb like Belmont in the north?
I was here in 1955, and I honestly don't know whether we even had any black in Belmont or not.
But we never had problems with blacks in Belmont. Any that did come in Belmont.
Yeah.
Everything was normal. We never had the problems.
So there was never much like segregation that you remember or anything?
No, nothing like that at all.
So, how did the media react to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in comparison to, let's say, JFK's assassination a few years earlier?
Well, I think JFK being our president, we reacted more than for Martin Luther King, which I'm sure
down in the South, it was
in the South they were doing the same thing.
Same thing, yeah, sure.
So the final topic is the American dream. So today you could say that the majority of students strive to go to college and then get a successful job. But how does this differ from what people strived for back then?
Back then, where not many went off to college after high school, you got married and you looked to buy a house and raise a family, and
so family was probably on the front burner right after high school. That's
exactly
unusual today.
Right.
And as well as a good wage. They were, worried about getting a good wage to be able to support their kids.
So what was the average wage?
Oh, the average during that time was about $50 a week. actually.
Yeah,
And
no,
they-
that was
you know,
really high. I don't know.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what else can I say?
Yeah.
It's just it was
So were people satisfied with this very low pay that was occurring?
they were never satisfied for the amount of money that they were getting. There were strikes involved in a lot of places, and they just kept on trying to get more money from the employer.
Were there any companies that come to mind that had large strikes or large unions that
Yeah, there was
put up fights?
there was oh God, there was the union was the IBEW, which was the electrical union. They had a problem there and back then, and also Local 25 had some strikes.
Were these strikes, would they work? Would people's
Well,
wages get raised?
yeah, they did get.
So they were successful
yeah.
most of the time?
Well, most of the time they did have more meetings and being able to negotiate for more money. That's what they would do.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting us interview you.
Yeah.
Um,
You're very welcome.